Okay. So this is a concept, phasing plyometrics, the when, the where, and the why. So first and foremost, shout out to Brandon Wickett and Nate Wells. These two, it was really Wickett's idea from the get-go. Came to me with the concept, and Nate, the three of us, we fleshed out the ideas, the theories, concepts, everything, kind of came up with some of the details. So a little bit of the background. Periodization, I use mainly block periodization for the phase potentiation benefits of it. I use block periodization because that's really what my population of athletes allow me to use. And so if you're not familiar with this triangle over here, Anatoly Bondarchuk uses it in his book, Transfer of Training. And the idea is that each one of these, you work backwards from the event, right? So each one of these foundational layers builds upon and potentiates for the one above it, right? So that leads into the programming, ABP, always be potentiating, right? Whether that's the exercise, whether that's the phase, you know, just find a way to get the most out of it. With the ultimate goal, again, is that being of transferring to the actual sport. And to me, that's more force than 250 milliseconds. So this is it, right? Same view, different lens, right? I want to talk about like the nervous system and how it relates to exercise and or plyometrics and how you can blend the two. So same view, different lens. Eccentrics and isos have unique strategies through which the nervous system can control them, right? So eccentrics are associated with cortical drive. And what that means is due to the nature of the eccentric contraction, you don't get the reflex loop from the spinal cord. So the signal comes from the brain down to the muscle, right? So your cortex has to work that much harder to get the muscle to work. So Del Vecchio et al. In 2019 published a paper that said that the cortical drive to the muscle is one of the main determinants in an individual's rate of force development capabilities, right? So to me, it's really just the foundation of your nervous system, right? And so taking it a step further, when you add in isometrics, you get that reflex loop back from the spinal cord. So now you've got your brain and your spinal cord working together. Faster signal, stronger, more of them. It leads to increased muscle activation, faster cross-bridge cycling, and rate coding. But the key thing for now is remembering cortical drive. So then plyometrics, right? This is all just background stuff. Shock plyometrics, there's three components to them. CNS stimulation, myotatic reflex, and the elastic recoil. Okay, so then CNS stimulation is made of the magnitude of the movement, right? How big it is, how difficult it is, really difficulty being the big word there. That's made up of the sharp onset of tension and the rapid stretch. Okay, now myotatic reflex is your fusing motor system, which is the system through which your CNS controls and modifies the sensitivity of your muscle spindles. So if you do a depth drop, for instance, the sharp onset of tension and the rapid stretch, what you're doing is you're sensitizing the muscle spindles to the stretch, so that way they react to it quicker, okay? And with that, you see an increase in cortical drive to the muscle, okay? So you can see how the two are related. And now the third and last one is the elastic recoil. That's your typical tendons, load and explode type stuff. Over here on the right is your ground contact times and distinction. So you can distinguish between different plyometrics. You've got your slow ones, your moderate, and your fast, and it's just based off of your ground contact time right there. So then this is where it gets, the vernacular changes a little bit. So this is from a guy, DB Hammer. He kind of mapped out, if you will, a central nervous system, the way that somebody operates, right? Because you've probably seen where one athlete hits a heavy load and they smoke it, but you go up a little bit and they get crushed versus the other athlete who can grind through them, right? So he talked about three different systems, and basically what they relate to is, in layman's terms, it's just your strength phase, your power phase, and your speed phase. So neural rate, neural magnitude, and neural duration, right? That's just speed, power, and strength. And over here is the graphical representation of it, where the green little humps right here are the neural rate, the red one is duration, and then the coup de grace, if you will, the yellow is your neural magnitude. So just remember those when talking about this slide. So this is it, right? Matching the methods, the goal of the weights has to equal the goal of the plyometrics. It's a continuum, right? So high magnitude, so a lot of CNS stimulation, sensitizing the muscle spindles, and low rate, where there's a low or a very slow rather ground contact time with your neuro duration or your quote unquote strength work. So if I do block periodization and I'm in an eccentric phase, then what I'll do is with the plyometrics, I'm worried about the plyometric portion of it. And it's vernacular for just the eccentric component, right? So you land, you hit the ground, and that's your plyometric contraction. So what I'll do is load that up. I'm not worried about the actual stretch shortening cycle. I'm not worried about the I'm not worried about the reversible muscle action. I'm just worried about them carrying a load, sharp onset of tension, and rapid stretch in the muscle, and then landing stiff and doing the best job that they can to not let that weight pull them down any further when they hit the ground, right? So then between the eccentric contractions in that phase with the main exercise and the plyos, you're sensitizing the muscle spindles and you're getting a huge cortical drive to the muscles that are working. Then, because it's still in the strength phase, if I move on to an iso block, I remove that. Now I am worried about the reversible muscle action. So I lower the weight or increase the height of the box, what have you. So that way now we get the elastic recoil from the tendons, so on and so forth. So it builds upon what you worked on in the first phase. And then another variation that you can use is if you don't do any of that, if you don't want to use external load or depth drops, then you just have them do the plyos from the bottom position. You land deep, disadvantageous position, longer ground contact times, more stretch in the muscle, higher tension. Okay, so then moving from your strength work to your power work, you do moderate magnitude, moderate rate. So it's a little less stimulating to the CNS, but it's faster ground contact time. So now you're shifting away from the volitional efforts of your muscle to more involuntary efforts through your tendons, right? And as it says, just adjust the load and the height, right? And the next slide's got a couple examples that we'll talk through. But the biggest thing that I like to do in this one is you add band tension to it. So the band accentuates the eccentric, but then you jump through the band as well. So you got a little accommodating resistance there. Or again, if you don't want to use any external loading, you can just do it from the mid position so they don't land as deep, so you get faster ground contact times. And then the last one, high rate with your speed or your peaking stuff, accentuated eccentrics with weight release, body weight, and or high position. And then this over here, ignore the DFM, MFM, RFM. But this is, the way that I look at that is it's your block periodization for your nervous system. It's peaking, power, strength. And as with block periodization, right, you're trying to manipulate the variable so that way your athlete or you adapt to one specific variable, right? And the same goes with your nervous system. But as with block periodization, you can do two separate ones, but you want them to be pretty similar, right? So that way you don't pull it in opposite directions. Same thing here, right? So it's saying that you can use your strength work and your power work together and still get a great adaptation from it. Same thing that you can use from your power and your speed work, you can do. But what you don't want to do is hit your, strength compound movement and then go over and do low magnitude, high rate plyometrics. They're too dissimilar. So then examples, right? So the eccentric, iso, power, and peaking. I just wrote this up. You would do, if I do a French contrast, weighted drop jump, 55 to 60% body weight, somewhere up there, right? Again, I'm not really looking for the ground contact time. I'm more so looking for a heavy load that they can do safely that's going to challenge them to land stiff and stick it and not let it pull them down any farther. Then an 18-inch plyo depth drop with 25 to 30% body weight. They just step off the box, land stiff, and hold it. They don't have to jump afterwards. And then an accelerated band pause jump, same concept. Attack the ground on the way down, pause, and then you can jump afterwards. And then moving to the iso phase, lower the weight, but now you have the reversible muscle action. You remove any and or all pauses that you were doing before. But again, you're still trying to manipulate the ground contact times accordingly. And then when you get to like your power phase, you'll see band hex drop jump. So there's no weight on the hex bar, but you've got it banded. So that way you're jumping into the band resistance. And then you can adjust the depth drop heights based off of the individual. Verkhoshansky talks about 30 inches being the best for reactivity and explosive strength. But when I did it for me, I was better at 24 inches. So that's where it can get a little personalized. And then your neural rate, your peaking stuff, most all of it would be done with like a weight release. So with the band drop jump, it would just be holding the band in your hands. It pulls you down, let go, you explode up. And then 12 to 24 weighted, 12 to 24 inch weighted depth drop the dumbbells at the bottom, explode up, load and explode, and then accelerated band pogos, all high rate, low magnitude work. And then this one's just for fun. It's in Paisley Park. If you've ever been there, rule number 1 of the Madhouse, take what you do seriously, but never take yourself too seriously. It's all about big fun. And here you go, some contact info. If you want to reach out to me, have any questions, comments, or concerns, I'll be more than happy to answer them.